All right, good evening. I'd like to call the December 8th, 2022 meeting of the Greenville City Council to order. I'm Mayor P.J. Connolly. I'll be presiding over the meeting. First, I would like to call on Councilmember Robinson for the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you very much. Hope you'll join me. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day and for the life we live. Thank you for your amazing power and work in our lives. Thank you for your goodness and the many blessings we have received, both acknowledged and unknown. Thank you for our family, our relatives, our friends, colleagues, and citizens. Thank you for the many employees and staff who serve us and the citizens of Greenville. Thank you for those who I serve with on this council. Thank you for your great love and care and infinite mercy and grace. I ask that you give each of us the experience, wisdom, and discernment to properly consider all views and opinions on the issues that come before us. I ask that you give each of us patience and perseverance and guide us as we consider and decide what is the best decision for the citizens of Greenville on the issues that come before us. I ask that you give a special peace and comfort to those who are entering this special season for the first time after the passing of a loved one. I ask that you pour out your abundant blessings on those who are less fortunate than us. And finally, Father, I thank you for the hope, the peace, love, and joy of this Advent season. In your precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. We have special guests today also to lead us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Scout Troop 826 from St. Peter's Church will be here. You guys can come forward and lead us right there with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you guys very much. We appreciate you being here and appreciate you leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. All right. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Mayor Connolly.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Glover.
Here.
Councilmember Daniels.
Present.
Councilmember Blackburn.
Present.
Councilmember Smiley.
Here.
Councilmember Robinson.
Here.
Councilmember Bell.
Here.
All right, Mayor Connolly, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. We'll now move on to the approval of tonight's agenda. Madam Manager, any recommended changes?
Yes, Mayor. I would request that the council continue item number 4, an ordinance to annex Parkside Bluff Lot B, and continue that item until January the 12th.
Move to approve the agenda as revised.
Second. All right, motion been made by Councilmember Smiley, second by Councilmember Bell. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay.
Motion passes 6-0.
All right, we will move on now to special recognitions. Madam Manager?
I do. Can I go back, Mayor, for something? I'm sorry. I wanted to pull something.
We're not there yet.
We're not
to
there
the
yet.
consent
Okay,
agenda yet.
Okay.
It was from the agenda.
Okay, thank you. I am. Okay. Mm-hmm. No, it's not right.
Great. I'd like to call forward Rhonda Connor. How are you? It's as city manager, it's always a pleasure for me to recognize the good work of our employees and also to recognize employees that have been dedicated in their career to the city of Greenville. And I have that honor tonight by recognizing Rhonda Connor. Rhonda Connor graduated from East Carolina University in 1987 and then attended the basic law enforcement training program at Pitt Community College and began working for the city of Greenville on July the 20th of 1987. Rhonda served as a police officer for 5 years, working off-duty jobs to pay her way through graduate school, where she earned a master's in public administration. In the early 1990s, the police department was undergoing accreditation and needed to fill a planning and research coordinator position. Rhonda took the position in 1992 and has served in that role ever since. She's written numerous grants and assisted the police department in being awarded over $8.5 million in grant funds through her career. In 2016, Rhonda received national certification as an advanced law enforcement planner. And tonight, we want to appreciate Rhonda Connor's service to the city of Greenville over the past 35 years and wish her well in her retirement. Please join me in congratulating Rhonda Connor. So we have a plaque for Rhonda which reads, "In recognition of 35 years and 5 months of outstanding service, we extend our sincere appreciation to Rhonda V. Connor." It was signed on this day, the 1st of December, 2022. So congratulations, Rhonda. We will miss you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
35 years, what will we do without you?
All right. Now we'll move on to the public comment period. The public comment period is a period reserved for comments by the public. Items that were or are scheduled to be the subject of a public hearing conducted at the same meeting or another meeting during the same week shall not be discussed. A total of 30 minutes is allocated, with each individual being allowed no more than 3 minutes. Individuals who register with the city clerk to speak will speak in the order registered until the allotted 30 minutes expires. If time remains after all persons who have registered have spoken, individuals who did not register will have an opportunity to speak until the allotted 30 minutes expires. Madam Clerk, our first speaker.
We do not have any registered speakers, Mayor Connolly.
All right. Anyone that would like to speak during the public comment period, please come forward, state your name for the record. You have 3 minutes. Uh-oh. Might be the first. If nobody comes up, I think one of the scouts has to come up. Oh, they're pointing at each other now. Uh-oh.
Next time.
Rock, paper, scissors?
Santa Claus came early.
All right, we won't do it to you. We will close the public comment period. This is where you guys go, yay. We'll move on to appointments. Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. First board that we have is the Affordable Housing Loan Committee. Councilmember Blackburn.
Yes, that's me. Is my mic on? Yes, that's me, and I wasn't aware I had that one, so I'm going to continue it while I find another.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. Environmental Advisory Commission, Councilmember Blackburn.
Also continue, thank you.
Human Relations Council, Mayor Pro Tem Glover.
I'm going to reappoint Francine Pena.
Okay.
Second. All right, motion's been made by Mayor Pro Tem Glover, second by Councilmember Bell. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay.
Motion passes 6-0.
Congratulations, Ms. Pena.
Okay. Next board is the Police Community Relations Committee, Councilmember Blackburn.
Oh, my goodness. Yes, I'll continue that one, too.
Okay. Next is the Planning and Zoning Commission, Mayor Conley.
Yes. I'm looking forward to this one. This has been many, many meetings. I am going to request that the board nominate Hunter Payton for me.
So nominated.
Second. All right, motion's been made by Councilmember Smiley, second by Councilmember Bell. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay.
Motion passes 6-0.
Congratulations, Mr. Payton.
Big shoes.
Big shoes to
Finally
fill.
replace that old guy. I mean, the other guy.
And the final board that we have is the Youth Council, Mayor Pro Tem Glover.
I'm going to continue.
Okay. And that concludes the boards and commissions appointments. And the next appointment that we have is the Animal Control Advisory Board, seeking a nomination appointment from any member on council.
I have actually spoke in person to a vet who, although he was unable to do it, is going to try to find a peer.
Okay.
There we
Thank you.
go.
All
Progress.
We're working on it.
right.
Progress.
That concludes the appointments. Mayor
Thank
Conley.
you very much. We'll now move on to new business, which are the public hearings. This is the policy of public hearings adopted by the City Council. The petitioner or a representative of the petitioner and a leader of those in opposition will each have 10 minutes. Persons following them will have up to 3 minutes each, with a total for each side of no more than 30 minutes. Additionally, I want to remind those in attendance to extend courtesy to persons speaking during the public hearings and to the City Council during discussion. Comments made by members of the public are to occur only during the public hearing as allowed by the mayor in accordance with the adopted policy of the City Council. There should be no interruptions of speakers or council members, including expressions of support, disagreement, verbally or by applause, as this is distracting and makes discussion difficult. We ask for your cooperation. Thank you. Madam Manager, our first public hearing.
Thank you, Mayor. The first public hearing, item number 5, is an ordinance requested by the City of Greenville, NC, for the use and benefit of Greenville Utilities Commission to rezone 32.30 acres located roughly between Munford Road and Pactolus Highway, Highway 33 East, and west of Mill Street from RA 20, which is residential agriculture, and R6, residential high-density multifamily, to industry. Chief Planner Shante Gooby will have the presentation. Ms. Gooby.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'll go ahead and tell you Merry Christmas. I'm probably not going to see you before then.
Merry Christmas.
All right. So this is a rezoning. It is located in the northeast quadrant of the city. It's specifically located along Mumford Road. And I'm going to use the mouse. It's a little bit easier here. So it's between Mumford Road, Pactolus Highway. The following are some photographs of the property. So this is Church Street, Gum Road, Mumford Road. This is a survey of the property. So in total, it is just a little over 32 acres. This map is showing you all of the city-owned properties. So if they're showing in green, that means the city owns them. As you can see, this property is shown up as city-owned. However, I do want to say that most of these other properties that are shown in green were purchased through the buyout program back in 1999 as part of the recovery from Hurricane Floyd. The most important thing to remember about these parcels, and you can see most of them are vacant, they do have to stay in the ownership of the city, and they cannot be built upon. Okay. This is the existing land use. So again, the GUC property is shown as utility. There are a few single-family homes that are shown in yellow. The majority of the area is vacant, and you do have some commercial, which is shown in red. This property is impacted by the floodway of the Tar River, which is this blue, and it's also south of Parker's Creek, which is this right here. It is located in a special hazard zone. It's in the Tar River and the Johnson Mill Run Parker's Creek watershed. No increase in traffic is anticipated. This property has been zoned RA20 and R6. They're both residential districts since 1969. There is industrial zoning to the north and to the south, so both of those that are shown in purple are already zoned for industrial. And the reason I make a point of this is because within our zoning ordinance, if you look at B, so any municipal building or use by the city of Greenville, you can see it's allowed in all of our zoning districts. So that's why the Greenville Utilities Commission was able to operate on that property that was zoned residential. As part of that, GUC is planning to sell the property. And so for anyone, a private entity or private individual, to be able to use this property, they're going to need to have it zoned appropriately. So this is the need for the request. The future land use plan does recommend industrial or logistics for this property. When the future land use plan map was created, it was recognized that this property was developed, so that's why it's still shown as industrial on the map. You do see a lot of green, which is potential conservation and open space. In staff's opinion, this request is in compliance with the future land use and character map. And the Planning and Zoning Commission, at their November 15th meeting, voted unanimously to recommend approval of the request, and I'll be glad to answer any questions.
All right. Any questions? Councilmember Blackburn.
Thank you so much for that information. Shante, can you go back to one of the slides that shows what is existing, and specifically I'm looking at Mill Street, the properties along Mill Street.
Okay. Here we go.
So I know that this is, am I right, this is the GUC property?
What is outlined in the dark?
That is the subject of the rezoning.
Yes.
It's the former GUC location?
Yes.
Okay. So we're looking at the former GUC location, but then along Mill Street, there's some smaller lots. Can you tell me what's located there?
Let's go to the aerial.
Right. Good.
Okay. Let's go back one. You say Mill Street. Are you speaking about these right along there?
Those lots right along there, yes.
That's all part of the GUC property. I don't know if you can see. I got a clear aerial. Hold on. As you can see, it's still part of the GUC property. There's some buildings located on it.
I'm just curious as to why it looks to have, sort of separate parcel lines. Is this sort of historic parcel lines or?
I would imagine that when this neighborhood was platted, those parcel lines were there. GUC has continued to buy up properties, so those are essentially parcel lines.
Okay, but it's all the GUC
Yes, ma'am.
property? There's no residential in there?
Not within the GUC property. No,
Within
ma'am.
the rezoning area?
That's correct.
Okay. And then back to the floodway. From my reading of the map, this appears to be what's, I know FEMA doesn't really like 100 and 500 year. They don't like to use those terms anymore, but this appears to be 100 year
Yes.
flood zone.
Yes.
With some of it in the actual floodway, it's not much, it's just sort of in the back, it's kind of borders. the
Right, of
floodway.
Parker's Creek.
Okay. And that's it for now. Thank you.
All right, any other questions?
Yes.
Councilmember Daniels.
You stated that there were a few homes in that area. Will they be affected at all with this?
I'm going to say that I believe that essentially the activities that were going on there, as far as GUC being located on that property, are probably going to be very similar now when GUC no longer uses it. The property is fully developed at this point with buildings and parking lots. So I will let the representative for the application speak a little bit more about
Yeah,
that.
I'd like to, because I've received some phone calls with people concerned about losing their homes because of this. And I just want to make sure that the public understands what's going on.
Councilmember Smiley?
So a lot of people, when they think of GUC, they think of electric or sewer or storm or water production, maybe gas. So are any of those, do they treat sewage there or generate electricity or, what are the operations that, that were on this spot that are now being sold to someone else?
I'm going to let the representative speak
Okay.
to the specifics on that piece of property. I have never even set foot on this property.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions? Councilmember Blackburn?
Just a couple of quick questions. Under this industrial, can you go over what are some of the permitted uses
Sure.
that are by right permitted uses?
Those are in your packet, and there's quite a few of them. I'm not sure which ones you would like for me to pull out.
Let me just cut to the chase.
Okay.
Data processing, i.e. cryptocurrency mining, is that allowed under an I zoning?
It is allowed, but there are standards with that use. So any use has certain standards.
But it's a by right use?
It is a by right,
There
yes.
is no special use permit, there is nothing that will take place that would allow someone could come in and just do cryptocurrency mining without any change in zoning if it had an I zoning, is that right?
The zoning would be in place, but they would still have to go through site plan review, which is where those standards would kick in. So there's like a 2,500-foot separation distance between the property where the data mining would be or data processing and a single-family home. Same separation distance between schools. So no, there would not be a special use permit required, but it still would have to go through site plan, which is internal.
And as long as it met the conditions that are in the text amendment, in other words, it would never come back before a public body.
That's correct. But in this instance, I'm going to say that unless some homes were not there, again, you have to have 2,500 feet between the property and a single-family home, then I'm going to say that this is probably not likely to happen.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Smiley?
2,500 feet's essentially a half a mile, right? So as long as somebody's living within a
Yes.
half mile of this property in a single-family home,
That's
that
correct.
use would not be permitted here.
That's correct. Or a school. A school would qualify as well. And the other thing I'll mention is the minimum land requirement is 35 acres. I know this is just a touch under, it's 32, but there's also that qualifier as well, which it has to be at least 35 acres.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Sounds like new knowledge.
Remember it very well. Very well. Thank you very much. Public hearing is now open. Those who speak on behalf of the applicant may come forward. Please state your name for the record. The first person has 10 minutes. All others have 3 minutes.
May it please the council, as you know, I'm Phil Dixon. I'm the attorney for Greenview Utilities. I've been their attorney for a very long time. In fact, my entire career has been based on representing public bodies. Interestingly, one of the public bodies I represented for 30 years was the Greenville City Schools and the Pitt County Schools. This particular site, beginning in 1954, was the school bus garage and maintenance facility. So from 1954 until 1969, when it was finally zoned for the first time, it had that use. And in 1976, this property became ours. We've operated the Operations Center since that time. Having been present when we first got this location, we were so excited to have such a wonderful new Operations Center. This 32 acres was just a wonderful facility for us, but we've outgrown that facility. To give you some idea, our new Operations Center is now about 83 acres, and we filled it up pretty quickly. So that was a real problem for us. It also, although we talk about the 100-year floodplain, this property has flooded 3 times in the past 25 years. It may never flood again in the next 100 years for all I know, but you know, we have put in place many mitigation features, berms, we've raised the level of buildings, we've done lots of things so we can guard against that particular problem. But it is not a good facility for us to remain at, and we relocated in early June. So as of the first week in June, we had moved all our equipment, all our materials, all our supplies over to the new Operations Center. This facility is still a nice facility. It has nice buildings. We had our human resources there. We had our engineering office. Water, sewer, gas was there. We had a storage facility. We had a lay-down yard. It's a really nice site, quite frankly, for future use. And I think it would be in our best interest, your best interest, to see if we could return this to being a tax-paying entity owning this property and paying ad valorem taxes. We'd also like to get it off our books because it just sits there and costs us about $15,000 a month just to sit there. So early in June, we took it to the Board of Commissioners of Greenville Utilities Commission and said, look, this property is no longer necessary for our uses. We'd like you to declare it surplus to our needs. We'd like to go about this in a very measured, deliberate way. So we'd like to first go to the City Council and have them agree this is surplus to our needs. And you may recall we did that. And then the second go-around is we received an offer on the property, and we thought there would be a lot of interest. So we consulted with the School of Government at the University of North Carolina, and they said the best opportunity for us to maximize our potential for this property in terms of a return would be the upset bid process. So what we did is we treated that as an upset bid, and that is the one that the city uses, the county uses, the school board uses, and Greenville Utilities Commission has used. And it's worked quite well, and it worked well here. We had a lot of interest in this property, and we had this matter come before the Board of Commissioners for us to approve the possible sale of this property on the upset bid process. It came to you, you approved it on the same terms, and then we received our first bid and we advertised, and then we got an upset bid. We advertised again, we got another upset bid. So we're feeling pretty good about this right at that time. And our final bid, we did not receive any upset bid to that. That final bid is $2.9 million. We're very excited to be able to get that off our books if possible, but we learned that it had to be rezoned. The property was not grandfathered in, as I would have assumed, since it had been in use long prior to being zoned in sort of an industrial use. But I find myself in the unusual situation of having to represent the city and petitioning the city to rezone the property, which has been in an institutional use since 1954. I think it's a good idea. I understand that you are concerned about the adjoining property, so I have with me tonight not only Chris Padgett, who's Assistant General Manager, I have Doug Askew, who's our right-of-way acquisition officer. Doug was with the NCDOT for 30-plus years. He's the person who has a background in appraising properties, helps us acquire lift stations, pump stations, substations, and negotiates acquisitions of property. We also have Paul Kumo here, who's a general real estate appraiser who does work for us from time to time. And, of course, we have Michael Overton here, who is the prospective purchaser under probably an LLC that he is forming. All these people are here to answer your questions if you have any concerns. Marion, for your benefit, it is not possible, in my opinion, for a crypto mining facility to ever be here. There's no way we could meet the requirements, or they could meet the requirements with a 32-acre tract, and it is the 2,500 feet of separation. I think a residence is 300 feet away. The adjoining properties, 15 of those immediately adjoining this property are City of Greenville properties. And again, I believe for the most part FEMA properties that were acquired with federal funds that do not allow any development in the future. If you move to the left of this property, there is a substantial number of lots that also belong to the city. There's already commercial activity in this area. There's Hudson Brothers Construction Company, there's a towing service, there's a daycare, there's other commercial ventures. I think this is the opportunity, quite frankly, if we can continue to lease this property, which I've been told by the owner, prospective owner, he intends to lease warehouse space and office space, just as we have used this in the past. I think it has the real opportunity to attract some real nice development for that area, which I think is badly needed. And again, it's going to be a tax-paying entity. I've had seldom times that I've come before you where I had both the planning staff and the Planning and Zoning Commission recommending something to you. Usually I'm fighting against some of those people at times. I have to comment, too, on the Scouts being here tonight. One time I had a rezoning, and I brought my 2 sons in their Cub Scout uniforms thinking that would help me. They fell asleep, I think, during the meeting, but at least I tried. You know, I'm glad to have them here tonight to see how things operate, though. If you look at the criteria, though, on which you should base this decision, it is in conformance with the future land use and character map and the text of the Horizons plan. It is compatible, I think, with the rezoning areas beside it, which are commercial in many respects. It has so much land that can't be developed out there. We had, I believe, about 450 vehicles at this site. I can't imagine there ever being that many vehicles at this site. So I think there's not going to be a negative impact on traffic or traffic flow. I can't see anything that adversely affects the public health or safety or welfare. But I also want to address any concerns that any of you may have. In our particular operation, we had the electric and water maintenance building, we had a transformer building, we had a garage building, we had a lay-down yard, we had a place for transformers, telephone poles, utility poles. It's a very nice site for someone to lease out and to continue to be used, and it would be nice to put it back in a productive use. The businesses I've got listed are Hudson Brothers Construction, B&D Towing, and a daycare. There's 1 mobile home in the area, 2 vacant lots, 3 single families nearby, and 2 single families on another street. There's woods, and there's 15 city-owned lots. We are sort of experiencing the same thing that I think everybody's experiencing, and that is we've had to go through a very long process to try and get this property sold. The first issue was the city streets. We have city streets on which we put fencing, we built buildings, and thank goodness Billy Murrow was able to assure me that we have closed all those streets in the past. That's not an issue. And the second thing is we had to get this property rezoned. We cannot sell this property without it being rezoned. And if we have to keep it as a owner for the future, it's really not going to benefit the city or anyone else. It's just going to sit there as an idle property. So I hope you'll consider granting this rezoning request so we can at least consider a sale. Any questions that we can address for you?
Councilmember Smiley.
Are there any, what, a layperson might consider to be a specialized utility, facility on the building? I mean, on the site, do you treat water there? Do you generate electricity there?
No, we don't treat water there. We
Water?
don't generate natural gas or store natural gas. We don't have any facilities there. It's office space and warehouse space and a lay-down yard.
Okay, so we're not selling the water treatment plant.
Chris, am I correct in that? Do you have anything?
Okay.
Any questions that we can address with you?
Any other questions?
No, just wanted to, this is my district.
Sure.
And, I'm all for the growth.
I think it could be a positive thing.
That the residents there and their concerns, excuse me, regarding having to relocate or different things like that are unfounded.
Yeah, there's no expectation on our part, I think, or the prospective purchaser to acquire additional land in that area.
Okay.
And there's you couldn't really just go displace somebody. You'd have to, have a sound reason for doing so. This is only relating to the 32 acres roughly that we have.
Okay.
And it's been in that use for such a long period of time, but I think it's sort of, the test of time shows that it's been compatible with the adjoining uses and hasn't been a problem. And if anything, it may be a tool for attracting some good development in that area. It might be helpful to everybody. I hope so.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else would like to speak on behalf of the applicant may come forward. Please state your name for the record. Oh, I'm sorry.
I have a question. I can certainly ask it after the public hearing.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
If you don't mind staying, Mr. Dixon, thank you for that presentation. It was very informative. My question has to do with, I know that once we pass a zoning all the permitted uses by right can take place in an area. I'm wondering why a commercial or O&I zoning isn't being pursued for this parcel.
I guess it seemed to me, and it seemed to the planning staff, that the industrial zoning was the appropriate zoning. That's what's consistent with what has been used in the past. I don't know the answer to that question, except to say that that's what we thought it was. It walks like a duck, you know, and we think we should call it such. And again, it's been the same use all this particular time. But we did not consider any other zoning. But it is warehouse space, and I do think, you know, the city attorney might leap up and say, we really can't focus on what the purchaser is going to do with the property. It's supposed to be consider all the uses. And I understood your concern particularly to be the crypto mining issue, but I want you to be sure that you understand that's not possible at this site. That's a shut door as far as I can tell, based on my research, and I think Shante will back me up on that. But again, this is just really nice office space and warehouse space and a lay-down yard where people can store things.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I do have one more thing. Speaking of the crypto mining, we have Greenwood, some of their equipment, they're coming to get that.
Yeah, they went into bankruptcy, and they had a lease with us, and we terminated that lease. That lease required a 30-day notice to terminate, and we've given them that notice and have been told that they will remove the property by the end of the month. Now, if they could, you know, who knows? I do know that they've sold a lot of that equipment. I've been told that, at least, and we've been dealing with the attorneys from far away, you know, doing the bankruptcy. But I think, you know, that was just a temporary arrangement, just so you know.
All right, any other questions? All right, see none. Anyone else like to speak on behalf of the applicant may come forward. Please state your name for the record. You have 3 minutes.
Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Overton. I am the prospective purchaser of the property. Pretty much what Shante said, what Phil said is absolutely is our intention. This is not a redevelopment. There are some great buildings out there. As the purpose is to go out there and lease those buildings out, continuing their very similar use. It was definitely not our desire to be up here. I argued, and Shante can tell you, until I turned blue about why isn't it grandfathered in. The use has been, they've been using it as office and storage for 40 or 50 years, but understanding that as soon as it went into private hands, zoning took over and it made the building completely unusable. So that is why we are here, but our plan is to absolutely continue the similar use to what it's been for many, many years, which is primarily office and storage. So I'll be glad to answer any questions if anybody has any.
Any questions? Councilmember Daniels.
So as the purchaser,
Yes, ma'am.
excuse me, once you've purchased it, the homeowners would not be concerned.
No, ma'am.
I just wanted that verbalized.
Well, if they said there was 450 cars there, we won't have anywhere near that. So, you know, obviously, you've got 3 decent-sized office buildings there, and you could have traffic from that, but low impact. We're not looking for anything with noxious odors, noxious noise, because I don't want to deal with that. So it's keep it calm, keep it quiet, and just have a good set of tenants out there that'll be a good addition to the property.
All right, any other questions?
All right.
Thank you very much. Anyone else like to speak on behalf of the applicant may come forward. Please state your name for the record. You have 3 minutes.
Hey everyone, my name is Karen Zip. I'm a resident here of Greenville. I'm just standing to speak to ask if this zoning would be passed as commercial and office space instead of as industrial. I think it's a great idea to develop that space, and I think that it should be passed in terms of rezoning it commercial and residential, commercial and office space, because that seems like that's what the purpose is of this request, and would like to encourage that move by the city council. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else would like to speak on behalf of the applicant? Please come forward. State your name for the record. You have 3 minutes. All right, see none. Those in opposition to the applicant may come forward. Please state your name for the record. The first person has 10 minutes. All others have 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Cy. I'm a resident of Pitt County. I'm not going to be here long. My only question is, I'm a representative of NOTRA, one of the members. Folks are sitting here today. My concern is just the health and well-being and the zoning. I have no problem with bringing industry or business into our community, but what I am concerned about is the amount of potential harmful pollutants that may come into the community. As I'm hearing right now, this is going to be a commercial space. The issue I'm having is it's zone industrial. So if another business comes, will they have to apply for the same permit, another permit again? I'm considering it's considered industrial. How are we sure that this won't be an area where pollution comes out of? How are we for certain that this won't be, I don't know, a wood pellet plant? I'm just using that as an example. So my biggest concern is it's how it's actually zoned, not just for now, but for future use as well. And I'm gonna just read this real quick. There are many residents in the River Park North. There are many available office spaces, parcels in the industrial park. So once again, it just goes back to my original concern about the actual zoning for this business. That's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Anyone else who'd like to speak in opposition to the applicant may come forward. Please state your name for the record. You have 3 minutes. All right, seeing none, public hearing is now closed. Open for board discussion or a motion. Councilmember Blackburn.
I've got a question, and then I'd like to make a motion. My motion is that instead of the I zoning, I'd like to move that we zone it for C. I guess C, I don't guess we get specific about a CH zoning. And so that's my motion, that we zone it for us, that we approve a CH or a C zoning.
I don't think we can do that.
Yeah,
Mr. McGirt?
my advice to council is you can't change the zoning. You could initiate it to go back to planning and zoning for a different designation, but it would have to have public comment by the planning board, right? It's a whole new use.
Okay, all right.
It's a whole new classification. The public hasn't gone through the proper procedure.
Well, and that would be my motion, that then it go back through the process as a C zoning or CH zoning.
We would have to act on this request first if we do that, right?
Or I guess, no, that's my motion.
Are you motioning to deny it and then ask the applicant to come forward with a different type of zoning?
If that's the proper procedure, then yes.
Well, I mean, before the council gets to the merits of this current request, Councilmember Blackburn has made a motion that it be referred back to planning and zoning for a different designation. So that motion's on the floor.
Okay.
I'd like to enter a subsequent motion to move to approve as it currently stands.
Okay, so two separate motions. So first of all, Councilmember Blackburn has made a motion that it be referred back to planning and zoning for a commercial designation, and you would have to see if there's a second, and there would have to be a vote on it. Councilmember Blackburn's motion's on the floor, so she's made a motion to defer, to send the matter back.
All right, is there a second? Dies with lack of second?
That's correct.
Councilmember Bell?
I'd like to move to approve.
Second.
All right, motion's been made by Councilmember Bell, seconded by Councilmember Robinson. Any comments before we vote? Councilmember Blackburn.
Did you feel free to go. I certainly appreciate all this good conversation and appreciate Mr. Dixon's remarks. And Mr. Overton, certainly want to be supportive of what you're doing there. I think it's wonderful to return this land to the tax base and to have full use of it. My concern, which I've not concealed in any way, is that this I rezoning still includes this data processing, which includes cryptocurrency mining. Even though there are some standards that have to be met, once this zoning is in place, it is a by right zoning. The text amendment can change, property ownership can change. There's so many variables here that I'm just not comfortable with an I zoning given the climate of what has been proposed for this area. And as the gentleman also said, I have a general concern, even though this may not be your use, and I'm sure it isn't your use, with the general air quality, soil quality, and water quality when in the future that could result from a use that may take place here under that I zoning, which would be a by right use. So that's my concern. I understand that the proposed uses are office, and that's why I proposed a commercial zoning, because that would allow what I understand to be the intended uses without some of the more noxious possibilities of an I use. So I just wanted you to know that I really am supportive of this land being used and returning to the tax base and what your projects are for it, but that I am not able to support an I zoning as long as it includes cryptocurrency mining.
Councilmember Bell?
Yeah, I'd just like to go on the record and say that we need to be extremely cautious as a council about completely subverting the will of the Planning and Zoning Commission and the land use map. The land use map suggests this. They unanimously approved it. I'm not aware of any time in the 5.5 years that I've been up here where we have ever voted against a unanimous decision by Planning and Zoning and the land use map. I don't believe that's ever happened. So we just need to be extremely careful about setting that precedent.
I also want to note, too, that we've had city staff and attorneys that have been up here that have made comments about data processing centers, and this particular site would not even qualify for a data processing center due to the size, the acreages of the size. In addition to that, from a setback of 2,500 feet, I believe the attorneys a few minutes ago said that the closest house was within 300 feet of this facility. I mean, they would essentially have to acquire all the land from that plus 2,200 more feet of properties just to be able to qualify, and then make this a larger parcel to be able to qualify for it. I mean, that's an extremely, extremely doubtful thing that could potentially happen. Could it happen? I mean, if you've got unlimited funds, I guess you probably could, but that is very unlikely that something like that would happen. So. Any other discussion before we vote? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Motion passes 5-1.
All right, we'll move on to item number 6. Madam Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 6 is an ordinance requested by Man Farms Partners LLC to rezone .48 acres located along the current terminus of Oakdown Way from office residential, OR, to general commercial. Again, Ms. Gooby.
This property is located in the eastern section of the city. It's more specifically located at the terminus of Oakdown Way. So this is along 10th Street, and this is Lowe's. And then to the south over here at the corner, this would be Pinewood Cemetery. You can tell this piece looks really small because it is. It's about a half an acre. This is a photograph of the property taken along 10th Street. Again, this is just a little rectangular property here. This is, when we get to the zoning map, it'll make a little bit more sense. But I do want to show, just point out that this larger piece of property, there's already some commercial zoning along 10th Street. So when we get to the zoning map, again, this will kind of pull together a little bit for you. Currently, this property is mostly vacant. There are a couple of residences left on it. I think those are in the process of being relocated due to development. Again, you've got Lowe's. The properties that are in yellow are single family. This property is located in the Hardy Creek watershed. If stormwater rules apply, it will require 10-year detention. No increase in traffic is anticipated. Oakdown Way at 10th Street, this is a signalized intersection. Again, so I alluded to a little bit earlier about the zoning. As you can see, there's already general commercial along 10th Street. And at the end of the day, this request is for general commercial, and this is to allow the traffic from the commercial to be able to travel to get to Oakdown Way. So that way, if folks want to make a left-hand turn, as this property, the remainder of this property is developed, this traffic will be able to come down a driveway, if you will, to head back to Oakdown Way. The future land use plan does recommend commercial along 10th Street and Oakdown Way. It does transition into some residential to the south. Again, this request is just a small tweak in the zoning in and of itself. It is already adjacent to some commercial that's shown on the future land use plan. In staff's opinion, this request is in compliance with the future land use plan map, and the Planning and Zoning Commission at their October 18th meeting unanimously recommended to approve this request, and I'll be glad to answer any questions.
All right, any questions for Ms. Gooby? Councilmember Blackburn.
Thank you for that information. This is an area that I'm real familiar with, and I believe that Oakdown Way, that's the stoplight there at 33, and it goes by Lowe's, and at present, it's not developed down there. Is that right?
That's correct.
And there's just those two remaining residences, and it's zoned, it's an OR zone, but if I understand you correctly, what you're saying is that by rezoning it to GC, to general commercial, it will allow connectivity between the development that were to take place there. Now, and that can't take place with the OR zoning?
No, because it's it would basically be non-residential traffic over residential property. That larger piece of property is in the process of being rezoned, so we already have some preliminary plats and some site plans coming in. And the section, I'm going to back up just a sec. This piece of property right here is going to be developed as multifamily. So you can't have commercial traffic through a multifamily development. So what this is going to do is that commercial will be there. There will be an easement so that the commercial traffic here along 10th Street can basically travel down to Oakdown Way to make a left-hand turn.
All right, so the OR zoning stays in place. What is that going to become?
The request is for commercial.
So that's going to be, we're going to have a commercial zone. We don't have that. We haven't seen that yet, though.
She's talking about just the change zoning inside the footprint.
I'm looking at the large blue OR.
That's going to stay in place.
Going to stay in place, and that's where the multifamily is going to be proposed.
Mm-hmm.
With that OR zoning.
That's correct.
Okay, so the issue here is we've got a commercial multifamily, and it's going to need to be able to get to Oakdown Way, and we can't do that with the OR zoning.
Not across residential property, because it's not a public street. It's essentially going to be a driveway.
I guess I'm confused because it's not residential. It's already OR. This parcel is already an OR zoning.
Right, but it's going to be developed as residential. It's going to be developed as multifamily. And so the traffic from this rectangle right here that's in the process of being redeveloped want to be able to tie into Oakdown Way. And so having this rezoning here will allow their traffic from here to travel to Oakdown Way.
Okay, from that commercial, okay.
Yes.
So one more question for you, and I'm trying to visualize where the residences start in this area. How close to this area are the residences back on Quail Ridge and all?
I'll back up. How about this? So this is Quail Ridge.
Yeah, okay.
So this is the back section of Lowe's.
Mm-hmm.
This is Quail Ridge. So
Hollow, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Quail
I
Ridge
called it
is
the
over
wrong
on
name.
14th Street.
That's correct. It's on 14th Street, Quail Hollow. And so this piece of property, again, is right here. And Quail Hollow will not connect into this.
That gets at my next question, which is, I see there's conservation open space. Would there ever be, is it possible to connect these, to run these together with that residential area?
No, because the connection is going to be Oak Down Way. Essentially, Quail Hollow stops because, let me get to my mouse again, these are houses. This is the back of Lowe's. So they're not going to be able to tie in.
But if this road were extended, if there were a road there that extended all the way down to the neighborhood,
Let me ask a dumb question. Which road?
the road that's proposed to connect with Oak Down on this parcel.
Maybe clearer on the overhead, you can see where the Lowe's.
Yeah, let's look at the aerial.
Yeah, the road that is being discussed that would go from 10th Street
Okay.
and connect up with Oak Down Way. Yeah, there you go, because this is all undeveloped. So what I'm looking at is this neighborhood back here, and we're talking about a road that's going to go from 10th Street down along the Man Farm and connect with Oak Down. Well, could that road not eventually go all the way down and back and up beside these homes? If there's going to be a road there, it could continue. If this is going to be, multifamily.
If this helps, it's not going to be a street. It's going to be a driveway. It's going to be a drive aisle. It's not going to be a street like you would think of.
Okay, all right. So it's more of a residential driveway for the multifamily?
Yes.
Okay. Will it be paved?
Oh, yes.
But it's a private driveway?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
I'm just going to advance my slides to the
Any other questions?
end.
All right. Thank you very much. The public hearing is now open. Those who speak on behalf of the applicant may come forward. Please state your name for the record. The first person has 10 minutes. All others have 3 minutes. Seeing none, those in opposition to the applicant may come forward. Please state your name for the record. The first person has 10 minutes. All others have 3 minutes. Seeing none, the public hearing is now closed. Open for board discussion or a motion.
Second.
All right, motion's been made. Councilmember Robinson, second by Councilmember Bell. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay.
Motion passes 6-0.
We are moving on to item number 7, Madam Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 7 is an ordinance requested by 4 Life Properties LLC to amend the future land use and character map for 90.378 acres located from the industrial logistics and potential conservation open space categories to traditional neighborhood medium-high density for Track 1, which is about 87 acres, and potential conservation and open space category for Track 2, which is a little bit more than 3 acres. For the property located along the western right-of-way of Allen Road and adjacent to the Pitt County landfill. Again, Ms. Gooby.
So we're changing gears. This is not a rezoning. This is an amendment to your future land use plan. So again, this would be a request that would be in anticipation of a rezoning request following this. So this property is located in the southwestern quadrant of the city. It's more specifically located along Allen Ridge. There are 2 separate requests, or 2 separate tracks is what I should say. Track 1 is the larger one, and then Track 2 is this sort of rectangular piece of property. Again, this is Allen Road. To the north is Pitt County landfill. This is a photograph of the property taken along Allen Road. Existing land uses, again, this property is farmland. The yellow properties, those are single family. The landfill is shown in purple. And then you just sort of have a mix of uses around the rest of the subject property. This property is located in the Greensmill Run watershed. If stormwater rules apply, it will require 25-year detention. A portion of the property is located in a special flood hazard area and floodway, so that would be this section mainly along the southern boundary, and then this little section here within the middle of the property. A flood development permit would be required, as well as an erosion control plan. A no-rise certification will be required for any impacts in the floodway. Jurisdictional wetlands may exist, and jurisdictional streams and riparian buffers do exist on the property. This request could generate almost 3,500 additional trips per day. The property only has access onto Allen Road. There's actually two means of access, which is you have this long stretch along Allen Road, and then you do have a small little section that connects to Allen Road as well. Currently, this property is zoned unoffensive industry and heavy commercial. So your industry is the purple, the commercial is red. This property was zoned to its current zoning in January of this year. The current future land use plan recommends commercial and industrial on the west side of Allen Road, basically between the railroad tracks, all the way down to Woodridge Corporate Park. Under the current categories, the site could accommodate about 100,000 square feet of contractor offices with supplies and equipment, 50,000 square feet of manufacturing of hazardous and non-hazardous materials, and 170,000 square feet of mini storage. So under the request that's in front of you, this is essentially what your map would look like. So the request is for traditional neighborhood, medium to high density, which is the same as across the street. Under this request, or under this character, I would say that the anticipated rezoning would be R6. And under that zoning, this property could yield approximately 450 to 500 multifamily units and approximately 200 single-family lots. So when our land use plan and our Horizons plan was adopted back in 2016, we had a comprehensive plan committee that was made up of citizens and stakeholders, a lot of different people. As they were working on the future land use plan, they used these 8 principles as sort of their guide for when they were making decisions on the future land use plan and where uses should be. Again, they used these 8. So out of these 8, as far as this request is concerned, staff's opinion is that this request does not support sustainable development practices. And what I mean by that is that with this request, you're going to have residential property that's going to be surrounded on 3 sides by industrial property. So again, in staff's opinion, this is not conducive to sustainable development practices. Staff does recommend denial. And at the October 18th Planning and Zoning Commission, the commission voted to recommend approval 4-2 of this request. And I will be happy to answer any questions.
All right, any questions for Ms. Gooby? Councilmember Bell.
Could you just show the map one more time?
Sure.
Please.
Have a particular map that might be helpful? Will this one be okay?
Yeah, this one's fine. Okay, thank you.
All right. Councilmember, which one do you guys first? Blackburn?
All right, super. I'll go. Do you have an aerial map? Because I want to sort of get to what you have said about it not being sustainable. And I know you stated it very well. Can you repeat it for me? Why this is not sustainable, and just kind of go through that again.
Sure. Again, staff's opinion is this would not be sustainable. It is adjacent to the landfill. This particular section here, I would call it the active area of the landfill. And then I'm going to just advance a couple of slides here. I keep going back and forth. I apologize. I can't get used to which way this goes. And so this is the zoning of the property. So if we imagine this as residential, then what will remain is the industrial zoning for the landfill, and then also the industrial zoning, which is Woodridge Corporate Park to the right-hand side. We do have some residential properties here that still remain. They've been there for a very long time, and so those are probably going to eventually winnow themselves out, but there are homes right there, again, that have been there for quite some time.
I guess my question then is, just to put a fine point on it, is this change to the future land use plan actually kind of going in a direction that we don't encourage, which is putting unlike uses beside, in other words, mixing uses in a place where you don't want mixed uses, and certainly not this kind of mixed uses?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Councilmember Smiley.
I don't know that this has ever been before us formally, but we have had people come to public comments on multiple occasions to reference a very loud use over in this area, if I understand. You'd had to hang around for public comments, I guess, where there were residences nearby that were disturbed by, again, this adjacent to the railroad track. It's some sort of noise producing, I forget exactly what it was, but there were, can you point that out on the map, or do you know where that location is?
I will say it has been in the general direction of the landfill. I was never able to exactly pinpoint what that noise was at the time.
But contiguous to it, I mean, my understanding was it was next to the landfill, next to the railroad track.
I believe
this
so.
area would be presumably pretty close to that, I guess, would be the.
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure I was remembering that in some general way. Thank you.
Councilmember Bell.
The concern from staff is it's not a sustainable practice because it would be putting industrial next to residential, right? It's essentially what, to boil it down.
Exactly. And what I mean by sustainable is that all things new are very pretty, right? And it's having something new there is going to probably be okay for several years. But as those properties get older, I don't know that they will remain as attractive as they once were when they were brand new. And right now, to the west and to the south, there's currently nothing there. In years to come, I'm sure there will be something there. I would probably expect it to be industrial or commercial in nature as well. And of course, we have the landfill that I'm going to say is probably going to be there for a very long time as well. So that would be staff's concern, is that sustainability through the years. Are those properties going to maintain their value? Are they still going to be vibrant neighborhoods through the years?
Yeah, the reason I ask, and I completely understand that, but if you see the industrial going all the way up to the property line, of all those residential neighborhoods that are, we'll call it the south,
yes.
I guess based off the compass as well. But I mean, so essentially we're, with our plan, moving industrial up into the residential anyway, right? So would a phased approach of starting to build some residential in there not make some sense to give a buffer?
In which direction? I'm sorry.
Towards all the, various subdivisions it looks like are down here to the south in the blue, yellow, orange, and green.
Are you saying those trying to meet in the middle? I'm not sure I'm following what you said.
I guess what I'm saying is allowing industrial to continue to go closer and closer to those homes instead of starting to phase in some residential to almost serve as a buffer. Would that not make more sense instead of piling more industrial in there and making the industrial even more dense? Right now, really all you have the landfill, and then you have the small Woodridge Park, which, if I remember, off my recollection, is like a small little strip, right?
Currently,
that brick
yes.
strip. Yeah, so I guess what I'm saying is, would it not make more sense to start phasing some of that out instead of piling industrial on top of these neighborhoods that are already existing?
I would say right now, Allen Ridge, which is the blue, is currently being built out right now. Woodridge Park, pretty much they're already meeting one another. So I'm going to say that section, as far as the residential, is static. It's going to stay that way. My thought is, why not leave everything to the north industrial and let it meet to the landfill instead of adding residential into the middle?
I see both sides for sure, definitely. All right, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you very much. Public hearing is now open. Those who speak on behalf of the applicant may come forward. Please state your name for the record. The first person has 10 minutes. All others have 3 minutes.
Would you put the area back on?
Sure.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Mr. Mayor and council members, I'm Mike Baldwin. I represent For Life Properties. That's Jeff Stallings and good old Billy Michelle with the two first names again. So we've been up here before with some of Billy's requests, and we feel like we've brought a good request to you tonight. I think there's several key words that Shante said. Sustainable, static. Static is very important because static is what is going on right now in this area. Back some years ago, well, before 2004, Mr. Leroy Cherry, Mr. Lynn Raymond Hardy, and GUC all put their wallets together. And they extended sanitary sewer along Green Mill Run, bringing it up on into Allen Ridge, Teakwood Green, portions of Teakwood. All right. I think a lot of y'all still probably remember Don Spate. Don Spate was probably one of the most talented developers in Greenville. He worked with GUC very closely on spearheading the infrastructure improvements of large gravity sewer lines to serve areas. When he did that, anytime something is zoned properly, whether it be in a land use character map or already be zoned, and you extend sewer to it, it grows immediately. So the sewer that GUC extended out here, along with Mr. Hardy's participation and Mr. Leroy Cherry's participation, has pretty much, other than Allen Ridge and Teakwood, is at low capacity. The sewer is the litmus test of whether the zoning and the land use is correct. Woodridge Corporate Park, I represent the owners. I represented Mr. Lynn Raymond Hardy. We extended another 1,200 foot of road. We've had one use that didn't even need the road extension to go out there, and that was the Pitt County School Bus Facility. It's been going on since 2000. It's stagnant. All right? This sewer line was installed in the early 2000s. It was accepted for maintenance in 2004. 18 years, everybody. Stagnant. So, all right, now let's look at these great road widening improvements that are going to happen along Allen Road. They are not the type of roadway improvements that are conducive to serve an industrial zoned piece of property or an industrial use. They've got grassed medians. They got super streets, which, you know, I like to call them leftovers. You know, that you go in and you hang a right and you got a bulb out to your left. Industrial uses bring in transfer trucks. The way that this road is designed and the limited access points off of it is not conducive to service transfer trucks. Blue line streams. There's a blue line stream on the southern property line. That's Green Mill Run. That is going to create a natural buffer, 50 foot each side of the top of the bank, between this property and the industrial property to the south. I've already talked to Mr. Hardy's son. Mr. Hardy's passed away a few years ago. J.R. Hardy, about doing the same thing on the farther and western portion of this property. because, y'all, it's not working. It's not working for Greenville. It's not working for the owners. It's not working for the tax base. It's not working for jobs. So then we have the landfill. Well, on the north side of the landfill, you've got a nice subdivision. You've got West Point. It's got multifamily high density. It's got multifamily medium density. It's got duplexes. It's got single family. But you know what it's got even better than that? It's got a park that is named Greenville City Park. So the landfill is nothing except this one area where the activity goes on, and then we'll talk about it in a minute, and the dimension that it is, where people take their trash and they push it up with a front-end loader, and then it gets hauled off to the places. So the landfill is nothing but an elevated cow pasture without the cows. I mean, it's just a green hill. I provided y'all. Did y'all all get the handouts that were given to the planning board about the letter from Mr. John Demery? Nothing's going to happen on the vacant cow pasture. All right. The only area that's going to stay active is where we've got a 150-foot conservation easement abutting us. I went out there and looked at the site. I drive to every site before I come and make my petition to y'all, several times on a lot of them. Where the central point of the noise, let's just call it the noise, since we got, for lack of a better word, it is almost 700 feet from the northernmost property line of where any lots can be developed. We're leaving that 150 feet of natural buffer. So we got a cow pasture over here, and then we've got 750 feet, well, about 700 feet. I don't want to make it more than it is. 700 feet of a use that, when I was out there, wasn't that noisy. But then you've got 150 feet of woods in between it as well. So then let's look at the impervious. Let's talk about the environmental concerns. In IU, the impervious ratio, impervious percentage on a piece of land is usually about 70 to 80% impervious. On multifamily, it's about 60%. On single family, it's 40%. All right, so take that and then look at that and do the math on how much better. First of all, we're required to detain, restrict to the 25-year storm. That's Green Mill Run that we're saving. All right, so then, and going back to the vote, I'd like to check the record, but to my recollection, Maxwell was the only dissenting vote, and that was only because of runoff. Because I asked him, I said, Hap, I thought you would like this because of the impervious reduction. And that, to my knowledge, was the only dissenting vote at the planning board meeting in October. And again, I referenced the development on the other side of the landfill. It worked. It's fully built out. Chip Little and Lynn Tozer went in there and built houses. The city built a park. Regarding the noise on the lime facility, that's over at the far northwest corner of the site. The speedometer guy, I can't remember his name. Everybody refers to him as the speedometer guy. And unfortunately, he does have a child that has autism. And autism, your sensory, this is a little bit over my head. Well, a lot of things are over my head, but especially something dealing with medical stuff. The noises affect individuals with autism more so than that. Every one of these people who are going to get to have an opportunity, hopefully, to reside at the place, have the opportunity to decide whether if the cow pasture bothers them or whether that use that's approximately 700 feet away that you've got 150 feet of woods in between bothers them. I plead that it won't be bothering them. As far as all multifamily, y'all, we've got 90 acres. the saturation of all multifamily, it's going to be a mixed use. And I think the biggest thing to point out is we've got a prime opportunity to have a neighborhood here, not a subdivision. Something with inner winding streets. The project across the street that Rocky Russell did and Bill Blunt did together, that worked great. You've got the school over here. So we've got the opportunity to do that again. But you all, it's kind of like the old apple tree analogy, metaphor I used many, many years ago. This fruit on this tree ain't going to grow because it's just the...
That's time.
Just a few, 30 seconds. Because the sewer being there for going on almost 20 years is the litmus test. The fact that nothing has gone on in this area is the litmus test. This provides, we've got already people looking at this, doing due diligence. This is an opportunity to protect public health, safety, and welfare, which we are first charged with, but then get creative with buffers and things like that. And this can be, again, a good neighborhood, not just a subdivision. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Baldwin? Councilmember Smiley.
So you've argued that you believe it's environmentally, your proposed zoning is environmentally better than the existing zoning.
Well, I hadn't argued anything yet, Mr. Smiley.
You suggested to us that the...
Well, and I hope not to argue. When you've got 70 to 80% impervious area on a typical IU use, industrial use, and you cut it down to 60 to 40, yep, that's environmentally friendly.
So should environmental protection be a primary driver of rezoning, of the consideration of rezoning request by this council?
Absolutely not.
So absolutely not?
No, not a primary driver. You take the other drivers that are in it.
Okay, so let's go to that. You believe that the reason this area hasn't been developed is because the zoning was bad, not because it was next to the landfill?
Well, first of all, the zoning was zoned RA20. It was in a dormant. RA20 gets assigned to basically everything when it goes into the ETJ.
Why do you think they chose the industrial?
I'm speaking, sir. So, you know who's the one who had it rezoned to IU in January? Mikey. Went in there with blinders on. Didn't put too much foresight into it. It was what the client wanted. The same client with the double first names that came to me and he said, "Mike, what do you think about this?" And when I first, my knee-jerk reaction was, "Heck no." No, I said, I'm not going to go out there and do that. Got looking at it more, and the more I looked at it, the more it made sense. Mr. Smiley, it appears that you're leaning in favor that it doesn't make sense, but I don't understand why, but we'll agree to.
Well, I'll repeat the question if you like.
Sure.
You believe that the problem with the land, the lack of development on the land, is due to poor zoning rather than the fact that it's next to the landfill?
There's no such thing as poor zoning, improper zoning.
I stand corrected. So you believe that the improper zoning is a larger factor on the lack of development on this land than the adjacency of the landfill?
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions for Mr. Baldwin?
I have more questions.
All right.
So you've come up here a number of times and argued for, a phased zoning approach.
I don't argue unless you start arguing. We good on that?
Sure. You've come up here many times and suggested that
Great.
a phased zoning approach is the proper way, as opposed to the improper way, to approach zoning. That there should be industrial, commercial, high-density residential, low-density residential. This is a regular line of analysis that you present us when you bring to us a rezoning request. Why does that not apply here?
And it's not called phase zoning, Mr. Smiley. It's called transitional zoning. It does apply here. It applies because you've got environmental buffers that provide those that provides the transition. You've got Allen Road that provides a transition. You've got property to the north with the conservation easement that provides transition. So no, it doesn't fit that commercial, multifamily, single-family model that I use so often. That is in just about every zoning book you look at. But in this case, your environmental concerns, your environmental buffers create the same thing. As a matter of fact, they do it in a better form because the city council, whether how liberal or how conservative that it would be, can't change those environmental buffers.
Is there an adjacent, two zones adjacent to each other, which you would argue, which you would believe are not appropriate to put next to each other?
Would you repeat that?
Are there two zoning uses, two map labels that it sounds to me like your suggestion was that you can put anything next to anything as long as you've got a road. Is that what you're suggesting? Are there two uses that you would ever believe don't belong next to each other?
Sure.
What might those be?
A cow pasture and a gun shooting range that would people to shoot the cows.
I'm talking about in terms of a zoning name. So
yeah, if this was let's trigger more on existing land use and the fact that it's unoffensive industry. So a lot of the uses that would be a detriment to a single family, multifamily, two family use are special uses. So Mr. Smiley, I can tell you without a doubt, because with the crinkle in your brow tonight, and just about everything that's coming out has been negative and been almost controversial to me. I can go back to just every one of the rezoning requests that I brought before this board that's been approved, and good uses have ended up there. And on this one, the same thing will happen if this board approves it.
Is a landfill an unoffensive industry?
The landfill is unoffensive industry.
Fair enough. Thank you.
All right.
That's with the cow pasture.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else who'd like to speak on behalf of the applicant may come forward. Please state your name for the record. You have 3 minutes. Seeing none, those in opposition to the applicant may come forward. Please state your name for the record. First person has 10 minutes. All others have 3 minutes. Seeing none, the public hearing is now closed. Open for a board discussion or motion. Councilmember Blackburn.
I just have some questions, and Shantae, sorry, I'm going to put you back under the spotlight.
I didn't bring my folder. I may have to go back and get it. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Well, I want to kind of follow up on some of the points that Mr. Baldwin made. And I do appreciate some of the environmental issues that he addressed. I just want to acknowledge that. Shantae, he mentioned that there was another residential development I think he said north of the landfill. I don't see anything directly abutting the landfill. Do I have that right? There is no other residential use directly abutting the landfill.
It is, you just can't see it from my
okay.
aerial. I don't know.
Can I see it?
Yeah, I think that north side of the road is landfill property.
Yeah, because the landfill actually goes across the railroad tracks. I was just looking to see if maybe I had zoomed out enough that you can see it. But it is West Point subdivision. It's various different kinds of residential uses. I think there's single-family, duplexes, and apartments. And it is on the north side of the landfill.
Okay, I do know that area. And can you go back to the maps, please? But as far as the landfill operation itself is confined to the other side of the street, as far as the actual operations. Do I have that right?
So this, I'm going to point to it. This,
right.
Yeah.
Even though it could potentially expand across the street. Is that right? And abut up to the neighborhood.
Are you talking about across the railroad tracks?
No, I'm looking at them. I'd like to see where residential property directly abuts the landfill. Because I don't see that in this picture.
Okay. Hold on one second.
And it may very well be there, I just don't see it.
I think I can go online and Google. Okay, all right. So just sit tight for me. And I'm going to see what I can do. And I'm just waiting for the aerial to come up, that's all. So this is the northern edge, and I'm going to try to get the aerial up. It's not always cooperative. This is the northern edge of the landfill. This is West Point.
We have a slight wooded barrier, much like
It does.
the south side.
There you go. So if you can see, this is the railroad tracks. This is the active area that we were talking about. So if you go to the northern edge, again, this is West Point, and you do have a lot of trees. Technically, it is adjacent.
But as far as the active area where the lift station is and all the activity, the coming and going, there is no residential neighborhood directly abutting that area.
Other than what would be these scattered single-family homes.
Okay,
and
even then, they're
right
not
along
directly up on it as has been proposed. And then I have one more question, what Mr. Baldwin referred to very poetically as the cow pasture. That is, though, part of the landfill property, is that right?
Say that to me one more time.
What Mr. Baldwin referred to as the cow pasture, very poetic term, that's actually the land, I believe, to the west of the active, but it's also part of the landfill, is that right?
Yes, it is all on the landfill property, yes.
And so that could potentially expand there at some point.
I can't speak to landfill activities, I'm
We don't
sorry.
have a crystal ball. All right, that's all my questions. Thank you.
Move to deny.
Hold on.
Second.
Okay. All right, motion's been made by Councilmember Smiley, second by Councilmember Blackburn. Councilmember Bell?
Yeah, thank you. I don't have a question. I do just want to clarify for the record, the slides said that it was a 4-2 decision, and Mr. Baldwin, you were correct. I'm looking at the bottom of our packet, and it says that it was a 4-1 request in approval. So just to clarify that for the record for everybody watching at home.
All right. Any other discussion before we vote?
I do.
Councilmember Smiley?
The application is essentially to move residential property into against a facility that has intentionally been buffered from residential property. The zoning around the landfill, especially the active transfer station, is industrial. It was put that way for a purpose. We've seen another example in the city where that was done and then undermined. When the airport was built, it was, surrounded by empty space. The airport was put out there in order to be away from everything, so people didn't live next to the airport. And over time, that land was rezoned commercial and residential, and people were allowed to move in there. And you have exactly what you'd expect from people living next to a large, offensive industrial facility. And we deal with that on a regular basis with people coming and talking to us. The landfill was put here because it was separated from where people live. I think we should respect that and allow it to remain separated from where people live, especially the active transfer station portion of it, and not make the same mistakes we made in the councils and other zoning agencies have made elsewhere in the county. Thank you.
All right. Mayor Pro Tem Glover?
As long as I have been on this council, 23 years, I've never had but one person come before us and complain about the landfill, they're working with the big heavy equipment pushing it down. And only one person. And so I think that they've done their due diligence and worked, hard to do it, hard to get it done. So I'm going to make a motion to approve.
All right. So we've got one on the table right now.
Right. You have one motion on the floor for denial. This is the second.
Yep, and it's been properly seconded. Is anybody else before I call on Councilmember Smiley? Councilmember Smiley?
I would argue that the reason no one's come to complain, only so few people have come to complain about the landfill, is we haven't allowed people to live right next to it. If we, accept this application and allow people to to live right next to it, the active transfer station part, I think we're going to see more people coming in and complaining about it, much like we have seen with the airport.
All right. Any other discussion before we vote? Councilmember Blackburn.
Sure. I'd just like to share why I'm going to support Councilmember Smiley's motion to deny. I, too, am very concerned about this mixing of just incredibly unlike uses and sort of what it seems to portend for the future. When our chief planner says it's not sustainable, I listen to that. I do appreciate the case that Mr. Baldwin made, and certainly when he talked about the environment, I am attracted to the idea of this being a use that would have less environmental effects. At the same time, I'm very concerned about the quality of the life and the health of the people that live in this area and that might potentially live there in the future. I'm also concerned about that this rezoning would directly abut the transfer station, and that's just something we don't see in any other place in this general area. So for that reason, I have a lot of concerns about putting this residential in that area, and so I am supporting the motion to deny.
All right. Councilmember Bell?
If procedure will allow it, I've just got a couple questions from my colleagues. Is that okay? What I understand and have seen the map, but what about this when you look at this aerial of, all of the residential along this Allen Road corridor makes you think that residential is not a good fit here? Not about the landfill, not about the map, but looking at it in plain sight, obviously, they've been able to move a lot of units in this area, and it's clearly a desirable area for a lot of people to call home. What about it specifically outside of those other two reasons is concerning y'all?
I guess I don't know that there is, except the fact that all the open space you're looking at, pointing it to, is zoned industrial and is going to be turned into other uses that are not conducive to be next to residential. So,
yeah.
If you're, the essence of planning, right? The reason to have a comprehensive plan, the reason to have a map, the reason to have a council approve the use of land, the approved land use, is so that you end up with adjacent land uses that fit well with each other. this is the very definition of land uses that don't fit well next to each other.
And just to follow up to that, kind of getting at what I asked staff earlier about all of the industrial kind of stacking itself towards this residential, is that not a concern? Because that would be, essentially forcing industrial upon existing neighborhoods, which would then be, in my opinion, an offensive, use next to my property. I would not want industrial, directly abutting to my home.
Well, it's already industrial, right? And so it's already been, the uses around it have, adjusted to the existing zoning of the land. So if there are, and if you were talking about creating a transition, you'd start presumably next to the land that you wish to buffer and move away from it. And this doesn't do this. This literally goes directly into an industrial area surrounded by industrial, more or less, and dumps residential right in the middle of it. And so that's what I have. And it's adjacent to an active transfer station with, which is exactly the sort of thing you try to, as he said, every planning textbook in the world would say, this was the applicant's assertion, that every planning textbook in the world would say this was a bad idea. I agree with him.
I certainly understand y'all's viewpoint on it. I intend to vote against the motion because of several reasons. One being that obviously the industrial zoning has not been taken advantage of very much. Mr. Baldwin mentioned how they extended that road and have not had anybody join into that industrial park. Personally, as a resident myself and a homeowner myself, I would not want industrial to come directly up to my property line, and so I intend to vote against it, but completely understand y'all's viewpoint. Thank you for answering my questions.
All right. Councilmember Robinson?
Just make an observation that it looks like there's a lot of neighborhoods around it on Allen Road and of course on the other side of the landfill. And it's zoned industrial now, but the homeowners have not been exposed to industrial use because there's nothing there, if I understand correctly. It's been vacant for 18 years. So basically the neighborhoods have enjoyed an open field or a farm-like atmosphere that's hard not to enjoy. But if the landowners had this land, at some point, the market will drive. It's been 18 years. I mean, at some point you're going to look at your investment. I got to get something in there, and if you get an industrial use in there, I wonder, with industrial use becomes usually a lot of traffic. It could be transfer trucks, could be dump trucks, could be a lot of different things that will start to use Allen Road, and I think that would be more offensive to the Briar Creek and other neighborhoods around there than it would be for people to be coming out of there. Plus, the other thing is this landowner gets this use approved. And homes put out there, the buyers of the home are going to know where they're buying. And it looks like it didn't slow down the neighborhood to the north. When Chip Little and that crowd developed, it looked like it filled out pretty nicely. It's one of those things that we have a land use map for a reason, but there are exceptions every now and then that you have to go against it. If it's been vacant for 18 years, there's no use of the land being maintained that could offend or please people. But I think an industrial use, with all the neighborhoods that became active, would be more offensive to those surrounding that area than it would be otherwise as requested by NOM. That's my comment.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Smiley.
It's been vacant for 18 years because it's next to the landfill. I mean, industry doesn't want to move there. There's a reason for it. The applicants coming to us and asking us to perform a magic trick with his property where we make it so that it's not located in an area that people don't want to be. And, there's a reason for it. The reason why we have zoning is to make it possible for people not to have to live right next to this type of facility. We know we have to have these facilities. We have to have airports. We have to have all sorts of things which aren't the kind of places you want to live next to, and the goal is you put them away from where people live. This action, approving this, the motion, would support that, and supporting the applicant would undermine all of that work. I think that we're straining to find a reason to give the applicant what he wants when it's plainly not in the best interest of the community.
Councilmember Blackburn.
I just would like to add a point, and I appreciate what Mayor Pro Tem Glover says about not having complaints. And I'll say that the key concern here is that for all of these other neighborhoods, and that's why I asked my detailed question of Shantae, they're none that directly abut the active site. And I, from time to time, will have electronics or construction and demolition debris that I will load up in my Prius, and I don't know how, but it fits. And I'll take it out there. I'm pretty engaged when it comes to recycling. I'm sure that's a big shock. But I will go out there and take this stuff, and I have to say that I have so much appreciation for the folks that work out there, because it is not a pleasant place. It's a very unpleasant place. It's very noisy. There is a lot of dust. And since electronics are out there, and since there is a physical lift where things are being crushed, we don't know what's in that particulate matter. And to Councilmember Smiley's point, there's a reason that we have it buffered, because people, if we consider this request, people will be living there, children will be living there in an area that will directly abut this transfer station. So I believe that my responsibility as a servant to the people of Greenville, North Carolina, is to serve the public good, is to serve the good of people who might buy a house there not understanding what living next to a landfill means. And in honoring the public good and not necessarily the private market, I have to say that I can't support this request.
Any other comments? All right. Mayor Pro Tem Glover.
These other areas where these places are already built, looks like they have extra space and plan to fill that in. So, you know, like I said, I've never had but one person come before us and complain about the landfill. And that was because he lived very, very close. He said that they were getting closer and closer to his house. So he lived very, very close to it. I haven't had anyone call me or talk to me about this is in my district. I haven't had anyone call me and complain about the landfill. Not a single person. Zero. So that's the way I feel about it, is that, you know, if he voted for it 4-1, then what's the problem? Why do we have to do kids?
All right. I got one question. Just kind of throw a loop. Would data processing work under this current zoning? A data processing center? So it would?
No, it's 2,500. It's too close to a single family zone.
Just to clarify, this is almost 90 acres. So potentially, if you were to cut it just so, it would be possible.
So it could possibly be a data processing center under the current zoning.
In the again, zoning wise, in the purple, not in the commercial.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right. Shall we vote? I think there's going to be some opposition to this, so I will ask you to raise your hand.
Thank you.
And the motion on the table right now is
God
to
bless you.
deny the applicant's request
Mhm.
to change zoning. All right. All those in favor, raise your hand. Those opposed, raise your hand. It's a tie.
Oh,
I'll raise my hand in
opposition.
In opposition.
In opposition of the motion.
Yes.
Okay. Motion
Yes.
fails. Motion fails 4-3.
All right.
Move to approve.
All right. Motion was made by Councilmember Bell, seconded by Councilmember Robinson. All those in, okay. Councilmember Smiley?
I just think we should note this. Once upon a time, the airport was a long way from everyone, and nobody ever complained about it. And over time, people were allowed to move in next to it, and now there's a lot of concern about health and welfare at the airport. And people come all the time and say, why do you let people live next to the airport? And the answer is, well, when we built it, nobody lived there. Then the next question is, well, who allowed people to move in? I mean, who rezoned the land and built neighborhoods next to the airport? And it's like, people a long time ago who weren't thinking very far ahead. And today we're going to do the same thing, right? As has been noted, very few people complain about the problems with the landfill because nobody lives next to it. Decades from now, people will come to this council and say, living next to the landfill is dangerous, it's unpleasant, it's, my children are being harmed by it. And people ask why. Why did you allow people to live next to the landfill? And the answer will be, well, when we built the landfill, nobody lived there. And the question will be, well, who allowed people to move in? It's like, and this time there's an answer. We know why. Presumably, the Daily Reflector will record exactly how this vote goes, and it will be clear to future generations who decided that it was appropriate for people to live next to an active transfer station. It's a bad decision. It goes against every textbook about planning there is, according to the applicant. The person who's proposing we do it acknowledges it is bad planning. And it goes against our land use plan. It goes against the staff recommendation. It's a bad idea. It is patently a bad idea. It will be recognized into the future as a bad idea. And I fear we're getting ready to do it anyway.
Councilmember Bell.
I'm no expert on the history of the airport, but we have had several, I'd say dozen residents come and say that the airport was built after their home was there. Just for the record, that is what was said to us.
It's not true. There's maps. There's pictures. When the airport was built, there was nobody out
there. There were no homes at all.
You've seen, there's pictures.
No homes.
The airport presents it, shows us a picture once every couple of years.
All right, going off what the residents have told us. But
all right, any other comments before we vote? All right. All those in favor, raise your hand.
We don't have a motion in front of us.
Oh, I thought we did.
I made a motion.
Yeah, he did.
And he seconded it.
Yeah, he seconded it.
After the last
Yes.
my mistake, sorry.
Yeah, and then you spoke. All right. All those in favor, raise your hand. Oh, wait, I can't vote yet. Okay. All those oppose, raise your hands.
It seems like a tie. I think the mayor. Raise your hand, Mayor.
Wait, what are we, in all seriousness, I want to get my vote right.
So we got 3 right here in favor. Those against, we've got 3 over here, and I break the tie in favor.
Motion passes 4, motion passes 4-3.
Just vote those on the left. Vote.
All right. We good? Everybody good? All right, sounds good. Let's move on to item number 8. Madam Manager.
Thank you. Item 8 is a... Oh my God. Mr. Graves is making me laugh. I am so sorry. I'm going to get myself together here.
Mr. Graves, we got a meeting to conduct here.
Item 8 is a resolution to close South Park Drive.
I'll save
All right, here we go. Here we go.
I'm so sorry. Lisa Kirby. Oh my God.
Miss Lisa Kirby will give us a staff presentation.
She is.
All right.
Evening, Mayor, Council.
Good evening, Miss Kirby.
That's so funny. I know.
All right, here we go.
This item is to consider a resolution to close South Park Drive. South Park Drive is north of West Fire Tower Road and east of South Memorial Drive. It is on both sides of South Square Drive and about 1,000 feet north of Whitley Drive in the Fire Tower Commercial Park development. Closure of South Park Drive is being requested by the adjoining property owners. The street closure map has been reviewed by city staff and Greenville Utilities Commission. Closure of this public right-of-way will not impact access to adjacent property owners. GUC requests the existing utility easements over and upon the right-of-way of the street to remain after the street closure.
Planning and Zoning Commission voted unanimously to recommend closure of the street, reserving existing GUC easements at their July 19th, 22 meeting. Staff also recommends closure, and I'm available for any questions.
All right, any questions for Ms. Kirby? Come on. Come on, somebody. Question?
Let me off easy.
Ask the question in everyone so far. Nobody?
I mean, I can.
All right, seeing none, public hearing is now open. Those who speak on behalf of the applicant may come forward. Please state your name for the record. The first person has 10 minutes. All others have 3 minutes.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor and council members. I'm Mike Baldwin, and I represent CHAM LLC, New Market Investment Company LLC, and AAV Properties LLC. That's Jimmy Bond, Sam, and Will Corbett. Sam Johnson, excuse me. This property has been vacant for some time now. There is a lot of activity going on the portion of the property on Whitley Drive. There's some new uses out there now. Coterides Development has the property under contract, pending the closure of these 2 streets. We prepared a cost estimate of what it would take to take up the streets, put down curb and gutter back where the streets cross South Square Drive, bring back field dirt, fill it in, clean it off. That money's been posted in the city's checking account. We do have in the process of getting plans submitted for a multifamily use, and we'll say that Ms. Wall, you and I have had some conversations about trucks parking on, not only on streets with active traffic on it, but especially streets that have no traffic on it. And this is nothing but a kind of a glorified truck stop. These street stub and the cul-de-sac. So what we're doing here, if y'all approve this, we're bringing a good use that fits in the area. We're bringing a tax base, and we're getting rid of a truck stop. So be glad to answer any questions.
All right, any questions for Mr. Baldwin?
Thank y'all.
Thank you very much. Anyone else that'd like to speak on behalf of the applicant may come forward. Please state your name for the record. You have 3 minutes. Seeing none, those in opposition to the applicant may come forward. Please state your name for the record. The first person has 10 minutes. All others have 3 minutes. Seeing none, the public hearing is now closed. Open for a board discussion or motion. Second.
Question.
Ooh, that was tough. Hold on a second. Motion was made by Councilmember Robinson, second by Councilmember Smiley.
No, the other way.
Motion was made by Councilmember Smiley, second by Councilmember Robinson. Councilmember Blackburn.
Question from Ms. Kirby. Did you say this was requested by the residents?
No, by the adjoining property owners who
Okay.
Baldwin represents. Mike Baldwin
Okay.
represents.
That was my question. Thank you. And this is going to be turned into developable property. Is that what will happen after this is closed?
Correct. Once the right-of-way is abandoned, it'll go back to the adjacent property owners.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other discussion, questions before we vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay.
Motion passes 6-0.
Let us finish our last public hearing
Thank you, Mayor.
of the year.
That's right. Thank you, Mayor. Item number 9 is the first public hearing for the 2023-2027 Consolidated Plan. Housing Manager Tiana Berryman will have the presentation.
Ms.
Berryman.
Berryman, you have no idea how lucky you are. You have the last public hearing of 2022 for the city of Greenville.
That's for last.
I am honored. I am honored. All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Let's see.
Good evening.
Okay, so I am here for the consolidated plan. The plan essentially directs the priorities of our annual action plans for the next 5 years. Okay, it serves as a application to HUD for federal funding for our CDBG and home programs. It will include the 23-24 annual action plan, so that will be wrapped into that document. Okay. So far, staff and our consultant, Mosaic, have conducted a series of community meetings, interviews, focus groups. We're here today for the first public hearing, and we'll continue our process of working with our nonprofits to determine funding eligibility for next year, as well as drafting the actual document itself that will be brought back before council in the spring before submission to HUD. Okay. So the intended priorities that will be included, the document will be pretty broad to allow for some shifting as needed throughout the next 5 years. But top priorities, as they present themselves thus far, include increasing the availability of affordable housing, addressing homelessness, public facilities and infrastructure improvements, and a continued focus of some directed funds into West Greenville. Okay. So as stated, this staff and our consultant will work to draft the consolidated plan, assessment of fair housing, which will include the annual action plan for next year. And citizen participation will begin in the spring, where we will present that document, publish that document for citizens to review, and we'll look for additional feedback, and we will bring it back to council for final public hearing before it is submitted to the federal government. Okay. So staff recommends holding the first public hearing for the 2023 through 2027 consolidated plan.
All right. Any questions for Ms. Berryman?
I just have
Councilmember Daniels.
Can you go back to your 4 items? Is number 3, does that include the rehabbing?
It does not. So rehab would be lumped into the availability of affordable housing. We see that as preserving affordable housing. Okay. Rehab's not going anywhere.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions for Ms. Berryman? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Public hearing is now open. Those to speak on behalf of the applicant may come forward. Please state your name for the record. The first person has 10 minutes. All others have 3 minutes. All right, seeing none, those to speak in opposition to the applicant may come forward. Please state your name for the record. The first person has 10 minutes. All others have 3 minutes. Seeing none, the public hearing is now closed. Open for board discussion or a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
We don't need one, actually. I'm sorry. It was just a public hearing. We're all thrilled. Good job.
So excited. All those are excited, please raise your hand.
All right, we'll move on to other items of business. Item number 10, Madam Manager.
Item 10, Mayor, is the approval of the sale of former Greenville Utilities Commission Operations Center located on Munford Road, consisting of 12 parcels. And I believe Assistant General Manager Chris Paget will be happy to speak to the council about that item. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Manager. Mr. Mayor, members of council, good evening. My colleague, Mr. Dixon, did a very thorough job of giving you the background on the Operations Center during the rezoning process, including the history going back to the 50s. So I'm not going to go back through that again unless it pleases you for me to do so.
Yeah, it would, please.
What I will tell you is over the past 7 years since we identified the new property for the new Operations Center out on NC 43 West, we've spoken to this city council a number of times, planning and zoning a number of times. We've done neighborhood meetings. We've met with former board members. And the question we always got was, what are you going to do with the Munford Road property? And we've been consistent throughout. We told them we wanted to put it back on the tax rolls, back into productive good use, and that's what the items before you right now will actually allow us to do. We have now constructed 4 of the 5 primary buildings out on the NC 43 site. We have relocated all of our personnel out of Mumford Road. And in June of this year, both the GUC Board of Commissioners and the City Council adopted resolutions declaring Mumford Road property to be surplus to our needs, and it was determined that the property would be sold using the upset bid process. And Mr. Dixon alluded to the fact that the School of Government sees that as a preferred way of doing it. It was a successful process in our opinion. It yielded several offers, and the highest bid received was from Michael V. Overton in the amount of $2.9 million. The GUC Board of Commissioners accepted Mr. Overton's bid in September and recommended the council do the same. There was a slight delay in getting that recommendation to you because the issue of rezoning surfaced, and which you've addressed earlier this evening. With that, I'll be happy to answer your questions and appreciate your assistance.
Any questions for Mr. Pageant?
He's got a way better picture than the one we were looking at earlier.
Yeah.
This would have been really helpful about an hour ago.
Agreed. 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 This is the picture
Brock,
that
go to
I
the next slide,
needed.
please.
All right, any questions? Anybody?
Vote to approve.
Second.
All right, motion's been made by Councilmember Bell, second by Councilmember Daniels. Any other discussion before we vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay.
Motion passes 6-0.
All right. Let's move on to the city manager's report.
Mayor, I have no report this evening.
Would you like to wish everybody maybe a
Oh,
happy
yes,
holidays,
Mayor, I
Merry
would like to wish
Christmas,
everybody
Happy New
wonderful
Year?
holidays, a happy new year, and I look forward to 2023.
And you'd like to thank your staff for an incredible calendar year?
Well, that, of course. I do that every day, but yes, would like to thank our city staff for everything that they do every day to make Greenville a great place. Thank you, Mayor.
That's what we're
Thank
here.
you.
We're here to help each other.
Thank you.
It means so much when you're told to do it.
That's right.
Waiting
Councilmember
on
Robinson.
Emails. That's.
I appreciate all the staff's effort to make me feel at home and get me educated. I appreciate my fellow council members to have lively debates, which I appreciate, and I also appreciate y'all getting me up to speed with everybody because I'm the rookie on here. And I look forward to working with everybody next year to try and move Greenville to be greater and making good decisions that we think are best for the city of Greenville. So I look forward to working with everybody next year. I hope everybody has a great holiday. Enjoy the holidays. If you're traveling, be safe. And there's probably going to be some peanuts coming out soon if you don't have any peanut allergies. So be looking for that.
Interesting.
Chocolate covered, double dip, with a little bit of salt. Just to make
Ooh, and it's on, you're being filmed.
And this is for all the citizens of Greenville, right?
Yes, we can absolutely hook them up with the manufacturer and they're from farm to table.
I like it. I like it. Councilmember Bell.
Thank you, Mayor. I too appreciate the spirited debate, but I would like to say that at times we're all going to disagree with each other. And as a nonpartisan council that, you know, has typically in the 5.5 years that I've been here worked really well together, I'd like to encourage everybody to remember that, you know, we shouldn't question each other's morality, values, ethics, whatever you want to call it. We shouldn't, you know, claim that council members are either intentionally or unintentionally putting the health of others at risk with our decisions. That's not a fair thing to do, especially when we're not experts on the topic. So I would just like to remind everybody of that. And then on a more positive note, would just like to wish everybody a happy new year. Going to start saying this every single year, but my wish for the new year is that anger and fear and hate disappear and that we have joy, peace, and love that lasts through the year. So thank you, everybody.
He's a poet. He's a poet.
I like that.
Very
That's
nice.
what fatherhood does for me.
I like that.
Very nice. Very nice, Councilmember Bell. Councilmember Smiley.
I would reiterate that certainly in a world where it seems difficult for elected officials to even, you know, say nice things to each other in the hallway, that it has been every year I am reminded and pleased, and the citizens tell me this too, that this council manages to be cordial and cooperate with each other. And all of you are here to, you know, there's no pony for being on city council. You're obviously here trying to do what you think is in the best interest of our community, and I appreciate that. You know, I think some of you are wrong sometimes, and you guys think I'm wrong much of the time, so that's fair. But I do recognize that you probably have better things you could do, well, more exciting things you could do with your evenings sometimes. So thank you for coming here and doing this.
Thank you, Councilmember Smiley. Councilmember Blackburn.
I just would like to say that in my most core values and my most central beliefs are that when it comes to government and government of this great nation, that transparency and authenticity are central. And if we don't have a full and open exchange of information, we're doing ourselves a disservice, and we're not serving our great nation and this great system we call democracy. I would also like to say that during this holiday time, I think a lot of us, me, can get really caught up in trying to do things perfectly, in trying to get the right present, and trying to have the nicest dish to take to the potluck, and having the nicest outfit and hair and fashion and all these things, and making other people happy. And I think it's really easy for us to get caught up and stressed out and really miss what's so lovely about this time of year. And maybe I'm just talking to myself, but I'd like to say maybe we can all remember when we get so busy just to stop and breathe, go outside, walk around, look at the trees. The leaves are falling, and that has its own kind of beauty. And we're entering into a quiet time of year, a more reflective time of year, and it's a good time to really appreciate nature, really appreciate our neighbors, and really appreciate the quietness of the moment. So that's my wish for everyone, and a wonderful holiday.
All right, thank you very much, Councilmember Blackburn. Councilmember Daniels.
Okay. I would like to first invite everyone to a holidays event this coming Saturday on the 10th at Epps Recreational Center. It will be held, by our Recreation and Parks and Hartiscope. It will be holiday fun for all youth ages 5 to 15. And we're going to have prizes and games and all kinds of stuff, so please come out and help us celebrate. Also, I would like to say that this time of year, I think we should always be kind to people. I think we should always treat people with the utmost respect, but also be aware that seasonal depression is real, that there are some people who have absolutely nothing and who go through things, and you may never know what people are going through. So let's just be mindful to those people. Kindness costs us nothing. I'd like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas from me and my house, Happy Kwanzaa, and to also invite you out to our drop the...
Emerald drop.
Emerald drop.
Emerald. I was close.
Drop the gem.
On the new year. Thank you to all the staff. I know I may laugh and joke, but you guys always answer my phone calls. You're always there to explain the simple things to me. Believe it or not, I like being explained stuff like a kindergartner, because take me to the basics so I can get a clear understanding of what's going on. And when people take that time to do that, you're all truly appreciated. So thank you all.
Thank you. You're appreciated as well. Mayor Pro Tem Glover.
First of all, I want to say this has been a year. And I myself, I thank God for being here and being able to attend the meeting. I thank God for the staff that we have. They are wonderful. I mean, they do far and beyond their call of duty. And when I say staff, I mean the city manager's office, the city attorney's office, the police department, the fire department, and oh boy, my girls. These are my babies right here. Valerie and all of her help. They're just so sweet and so nice.
Thank you.
And everything is, sure, I'll do it right now. And I just love it. They're just really sweet. And Janae, I never thought you'd be working for the city of Greenville, but you're here, and you graduated with my godson. And I was so glad to see that you decided to come and join Greenville Law Office. And now I want to wish everyone
a Merry Christmas and a Happy Kwanzaa. And remember the people who cannot attend and cannot have Christmas, be it dictatorship or whatever, that they cannot have Christmas. Christmas is a special time of the year because the real reason for the season is Jesus. And if you keep that in mind, you could be kind to everyone. And, you know, I just love everybody. I don't back off anybody. I just love everybody. And congratulations to our new chief of police. And real proud of you, Ted.
Thank you.
You're doing a great job so far, but you know, Mama will tell you if you're not.
Yes, ma'am, I know.
And everyone, I just love you all. Ginger, love you too, baby. All right, but I do. You'll get mentioned now. Yeah.
Above the fold.
Yes, but I do, in all seriousness, I thank you all for, when I was sick, like this has not been my year. You all called to check on me and to see how I was doing and everything. And if you could bring something or do something for me. And I, you know, those are things that, you know, in a regular workflow, that will never happen. And I'm so glad that we are a close family and that we're more like family than council members. So I'm waiting for those chocolate peanuts. I'm waiting for them to get here because I know my husband is a diabetic and he's still in full guard the whole thing. He loves chocolate peanuts. But anyway, that's it, and I will see you all next year. And please be careful out there. And everybody come back home, which is the City Hall, in one piece, please. God bless you, and I love you all.
Thank you.
I know. I don't know how you follow that right there. I'm not going to say a whole lot, but I do want to say, you know, I'm very grateful for everybody here. Grateful to have the partnership that we have and the great relationship where we can have discussions. We can talk about things that we all don't agree on, but at the end of the day, you know, Councilmember Smiley can grab both of my arms and try to prevent me from voting, and Chief Sauls doesn't have to pull out any weapons or anything like that to stop the melee. But you know, it's a great feeling. I mean, I very much enjoy coming here to our city council meetings. I enjoy the fact that we all get along and we respect one another, and it's a great feeling. And I feel like the citizens of Greenville should feel very fortunate that we're in the situation that we are with the council that we have, the staff that we have, and just the overall feeling of what's going on in Greenville right now. So we're incredibly blessed this holiday season to be thankful for all that's going on right now. I want to wish everybody a happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. I hope that you guys are safe, just like all of the other council members have said too. I hope that you have fun with family, friends, whoever you're with, but also, like Councilmember Daniel said, not everybody's as fortunate as we all are. Some people will be spending the holidays alone. Please keep them in your thoughts and your prayers. And if you know people that are away, elderly people, check on them. You know, I think it's always a good thing to check on them and make sure that they're doing okay, because it's a tough time. Many people have lost individuals, family members that they spent their holidays with or they were very close to, and it could be a tough season for them. So please keep them in your thoughts and your prayers throughout the season. And I'm going to end on a really good note. Nobody's mentioned it yet, but Councilmember Daniels did send me the text message. Nobody has mentioned that we have a new family member. We have a little girl named Charlotte, and her mother Crystal works in the city clerk's office, and we are very thankful and grateful that she is going to be celebrating her first Christmas. And I cannot wait to meet baby Charlotte as soon as she brings her to the office or Crystal brings her near me, which maybe never, you never know. Hopefully she'll consider it. We'll see. But want to wish Crystal a congratulations, and we're excited to see the pictures of Charlotte as she celebrates her first Christmas. So, With that, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion is made by Councilmember Blackburn, second by Councilmember Bell. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay.
Motion passes 6-0.
We are adjourned.